For the News Hour, the U.S. Supreme Court today struck down one of Louisiana's majority Black congressional districts, a decision that weakens key protections under the Voting Rights Act. In a 6-3 ruling, the court's conservative majority found that Louisiana's 6th district, which links Black communities across the state, relied too heavily on race in its design.
Writing for the majority, Justice Samuel Alito called the map an unconstitutional gerrymander. The decision could open the door to broader legal challenges over majority Black and Latino districts across the country and give states new latitude to redraw maps in ways that could shift the balance of political power.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
You woke? Time to get up.
We don't want to be podcast. Make sure family needs.
Hello and welcome to Thought You're Woke No Speed Limit Podcast. I am your host, Alvin, and yes, we are back. And I'm glad we're back. So today, there's a good reason to be back. The Supreme Court in the 6-3 ruling just a week ago has decided to strike down basically the second half of the 1965 Civil Rights Act. Louisiana apparently had drawn two districts, or it originally had drawn one district for Black voters in the state of Louisiana. Well, Black voters in the state of Louisiana sued the Supreme Court, or sued the federal courts, to get those districts properly drawn so that there would be more than one Black district in Louisiana. Well, in doing so, Louisiana went back and redrew the maps, and then they got sued by white groups who then argued that this was racial gerrymandering and that was illegal under the Voting Rights Act. That eventually got to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has since then ruled against Louisiana. This is the same court, however, that has ordered the state of Alabama to create two Black districts because, according to them, the state of Alabama had purposely tried to dilute Black votes in the state of Alabama. Now, with this ruling, what it does, it basically mutes the second half of the 1965 Civil Rights Bill, which gives influence to Black voters by giving them at least 1 to 2 districts in their state that deal with this particular issue. But the current Supreme Court, and I beg to call them the actual Supreme Court, the current version of the Supreme Court, which I'm going to say what I got to say now, reminds me of the old Jim Crow South. So now, even Alabama is, with just weeks left before the primary elections, wants to redraw the districts to suit whatever they want to do because, see, now we don't have racial gerrymandering here. It's about the parties. Even though the Supreme Court had previously already said that you purposely tried to dilute the Black vote in Alabama. And Alabama is involved because, like I said, this was a case that went before the Supreme Court. There's a lot I really want to talk to you about, but I'm gonna try to make this video short today because I also got to talk about what's going on with the SB LC, and I'm not so happy about that one either. Southern Property Christian Law Center. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what I want to talk about right now is this, because this is just one of the many attacks that have come against voting rights, Black rights in the United States, and it's growing, especially under the Trump administration, one which is often backed by people, whether it be monetarily or by votes, who tend to be white conservatives who tend to be racist. And I'm not saying all conservatives are racist. They tend to be Southern. They tend to be a particular crowd, usually in the South. Members of the Capper, or members of the Not Concerned organization. Whatever you want to call them, neophytes. Those guys, the goose stepping mother suckers. So they tend to be a part of that. Now, this particular case, like I said, came from the fact that Louisiana was trying to solve a problem that was a lawsuit from black people, then caused a lawsuit by white people, which, may I say this out loud, the problem is always either white people trying to solve something that they don't really want to solve. So then they make a decision that doesn't make sense. It's the same thing that happens with DEI. I'm going to solve this problem. Then I'll overkill on it to the point where, because I really don't want to do nothing about this, but okay, whatever I got to, and make it look like I'm doing something. So then whatever I do looks terrible in the end. And that's what happened here. Now, I'm going to talk about this in this way because I'm trying to do it in a calm way because, again, we have a problem in this country where there are particular groups in this country that do not want minorities to succeed because they don't think minorities are good, or they fear the power that minorities could have after all the damage that these mother suckers, these cappers, and these neo-nonsense folks have done to us over the years. There's the damage that they have done to us over the years. They fear black power. They fear minorities rising in the country. In fact, they've taken up the old Nazi, and I said Nazi, and they can edit this out the video if YouTube wants to, or if TikTok or anyone want to edit this out. The Nazi point of view on this particular issue. Apparently, the GOP, when it initiated its Southern strategy back in the 70s, decided to also, even though they say they don't do it, take money from the GOP. And again, the biggest issue with me is what's about to happen with the elections here in Alabama. I mean, seriously, the biggest issue right now is what's going to happen here with Alabama. We have two congressional districts that are drawn to give blacks an advantage. One is 50% and one's 49%. Either way, it gives black people an attempt at an advantage, and it may give the Democrats an advantage. We don't know until election time comes. This state is still a majority Democratic state. Now there's rumors that Trump is, out here screaming to the all the Republican states that you all need to stop your elections, redraw your districts, because there's a fear nationwide that the Democrats, because of all the crap that's going on in D.C. by the man in the half White House, that all the stuff that's going on in D.C., that they're going to lose power. But of course, the people that they victimize the most is usually minorities. So it's not just black people here in Texas. It's the Latino vote or the Mexican vote. California, it would be the same thing, but California is more likely to become more Democrat than anything else. But states like Texas or Florida would push out Jamaicans, blacks, Latinos, and anybody else that doesn't vote GOP. But at the same time, the Cubans can help because Cubans like to vote Republican in Florida, so they might draw a majority district with them in it while diluting the votes for others. And they'll claim, here's the claim, it's party. It has nothing to do with race. I'm going to say this. This current system is stupid, and it's going to be up to Congress to fix it. The current Congress will not fix anything. It's enjoying this because it gives them an opportunity to take advantage. And the fact that you have a person in the White House literally telling you to destroy democracy so that one party can win all the elections, that is sick. Gerrymandering, period, is sick. Look what's going on in Texas that then stimulate what happened in Virginia, which then would also generate what happened in California, where they can redraw these districts to balance the power, so to speak, but take away the rights of other people to have representation. Instead, what we should have, if these are some options on the table, we should have a bipartisan committee that draws districts in each state. That's what we really should do. And it should happen at the federal level that we force this to happen. And again, a failure of the Democratic Party was to pass the John Lewis bill, which would have fixed some of the issues that have allowed the destruction of the second half of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And I also don't want black people to think, with all the rhetoric going on, that their right to vote has been taken. You still have the right to vote, but they can dilute your right to vote. You know, if you have a strong candidate you think should win, go to the polls to vote. In fact, it's more important now than ever that black people go to the polls and vote. Wherever you are, whether it be here in Alabama, whether it be in Georgia, whether it be anywhere across the South, whether it be in North, South, whoever's listening to this right now, especially folks in Alabama, get up off your butts and go vote. It's important to force the hand of those who are in power to recognize you. So it's important that your vote counts. Now, this is the quote unquote ideal of one Edward Bloom, who is the sponsor of most of the destruction of the Civil Rights Bill. He was also the one who sponsored the bill that destroyed affirmative action in colleges. He used Asians, and he used them because he formed a group, and then the Asians joined the group that destroyed affirmative action in colleges. Now he's also doing that with Latinos to stop things like the Fearless Fund and other organizations from actually having their organizations, right? So there are a lot of enemies of black people right now that currently have power because we have a Jim Crow Supreme Court. And I'm not talking about the three justices that voted against this ruling, but I'm talking about the other six. They're Jim Crow judges. One of them happens to look like me, sort of, right? He don't want to be one of us. He don't like us. He says we're failures. So he thinks he can vote with the other guys to fix that. I'm just spouting off at the mouth right now. That's how I feel about that current Supreme Court. The Jim Crow Supreme Court people. The GOP, this is an underlying goal of the GOP. And then people are asking this question, and I don't ask this question. And I know this is kind of off the subject. They say, well, independents are upset with Donald Trump, and Democrats are upset with Donald Trump. But why aren't Republicans upset with Donald Trump? Because he's fulfilling their agenda. One, immigration. The borders are shut down. Nobody's coming across the borders. ICE is harassing brown folks, black folks who don't speak English or who are from another country all across the United States. They're rounding people up, doing all this stuff. That is what the GOP wanted them to do. When it came to the civil rights thing, they see where the appointments of the man in the half White House have helped end have cut back on affirmative action. They're cutting back on these stupid voting right laws in the South. That's what they think they are, stupid. They see this as a victory. Heck, the economy may be out of control right now. It's going to be stupid, but he's cut all these programs and all these things. He's even threatening to end Medicare and Medicaid so he can fight as many wars as he wants to. People are willing to fall for that. They believe in that. This is what they are. That's why they're following this man. Their policies, their ideas are being enacted the way they want to. So that is why they follow lockstep with this particular individual. Now, there are some people among them who call themselves Republicans who say, hey, I don't like any of this stuff that's going on. But hold up. Those same ones who are now sitting at home, who are no longer in Congress, voted against the John Lewis bill that would affect voting rights. So the GOP is what it is. Even the ones who call them the never Trumpers or whatever you call them, they like this stuff. They have been an enemy of the black community through the whole process. Even the lightweight black Republicans. We know who we talking about. We can talk about the Scots and all them who have suddenly disappeared. You don't hear nothing from them, right? All of those folks. Tim Scott's quiet. What's the dude in Florida? He's quiet. You don't hear nothing. Candace Owen is trying to beg and plead, say, "Oh, I was wrong for voting for Trump. I was wrong for whatever." But you still one of them. And then you got Tucker Carlson and all those other people who are definitely happy that this law, that the Supreme Court did what they did. Not only are they happy about that, let's talk about what just happened to the SPLC.
Good afternoon. Today, a few minutes ago, in the Middle District of Alabama, a grand jury returned an 11-count indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred. The indictment describes this conduct in detail, but one troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of 1 person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years. In total, according to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front. Now, as the indictment lays out, after SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing.
Are you serious right now, bro?
Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Anyway, so the Southern Poverty Law Center is now facing an indictment over possible frauds that they're funding 8 groups because what they did was paid for information from members of those particular groups to defund them, because this is what the Southern Poverty Law Center has done. They've actually defunded things, despite what some of the what's her name, Ann Coulter, the racist Ann Coulter, that likes to get on shows talk about, it's amazing how every time I turn around, I see a brown person standing there, and it's Patel guy who's, I don't know, he's got a lot of other issues. Maybe I need to post a little video of him dancing right here. Anyway, guys like him, they always will stick around whiteness for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Somebody might mark this as racist and tell them, "Hey, look, you need to take this video down." But I'm being honest, they'll stick around racist. There's another one that I listen to on Breaking Points. I like that show. I just don't like him. He gets on there and he starts spouting off how we need to change the culture of America and all this. We have to guarantee citizenship. I said, your parents were immigrants. They came to this country. The people that you are supporting don't like you, really. Tell you are an ends to a means. Okay? That's beside the point. Now, let's talk about this particular indictment. Like I said, again, they are basing this claim on the fact that the SPLC was paying informants and therefore was giving money was literally giving money to these organizations and helped organize hate in America. This is a roundabout way of saying certain things, because here's the lie. The FBI, that same organization, did this to the Black Panthers. They did this to the Nation of Islam, and I need to get a member of the Nation of Islam on here to tell you about how they penetrated those groups by doing the same thing, paying money to informants and to have spies inside those organizations. The CIA does it when they go to Israel or when they go over to the Middle East. They do it in Europe or wherever. They pay informants. So the SPLC was doing this to find out what the KKK, the capper, and the neo-nonsense was doing, along with other hate groups, because there are 1,000 of them. And did you not notice where he said this indictment came from? A jury in central Alabama. Let me explain something about the capper. In my, not within my lifetime, but in my mother's lifetime, they were blowing up houses in Birmingham of civil rights leaders. This same group set a bomb off at the 16th Street Baptist Church, killed 4 little girls. There's still a woman here in the state of Alabama that the state of Alabama refuses to give reparations for. She can't. She's blind. She's deaf. She has injuries from what happened because of the Klan that they did not convict. It took Doug Jones, who's, by the way, is currently running for governor. He's one of the candidates running for governor, as a federal member of the Department of Justice, who finally got an opportunity to put the 2 guys who were Klansmen responsible for the death of those 4 little girls in jail decades after it happened. Alabama refused to failed to prosecute the 2 men. They literally failed to prosecute the 2 men. This woman has been suffering from these injuries for years. Alabama owes her money. Yet we're talking about an indictment done here at a federal court here in Alabama, central Alabama. I don't know if it was Birmingham or some country court out there in redneck Alabama. And I'm going to say how I feel. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to say how I feel on this particular video. And if YouTube wants to censor me, they can censor me. But I'm telling you how I feel about all of this right now. So then they're coming after SPLC, after the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has done nothing since the 70s, but trying to go after these hate groups that have literally stopped lynchings. They've literally stopped lynchings here in the United States. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center has done. I'm not playing games with you. We still have hate that happens in the world. What happened in Charlottesville where the 1 person died. Now they're trying to blame that on the Southern Poverty Law Center, not on the hate group that also is a sponsor of the very people standing on that stage. Yeah. Don't think I don't know. The sponsor of the very people standing on that stage trying to prosecute the Southern Poverty Law Center were people who are supported by the folks who support the hate group that was in Charlottesville. I ain't playing games with you. Why do you think the man in the half White House decided that the folks who committed a crime against the United States trying to invade the Capitol decided to pardon everybody, including those who killed police officers? Yeah, that man did that. I'm standing here like a bully pulpit. Again, like I said, your voting rights count. This ain't the only thing. Like I said, they came after the Fearless Fund, which was... This is why I get pissed off. The Fearless Fund was for Black women, right? But a white man sued in court talking about it's wrong for this organization to have this fund that's only for women and only for Black women. And guess who's behind that one? I told you about Edward Bloom. Picture I'm putting up here. Edward Bloom, right? He is another one of these. I think at the end of this, I'm going to show you a picture of all the cast of characters that are involved that I know of. But we're going to start here with that. So all of these things get before the Supreme Court, the Jim Crow Supreme Court, because that's what this is another Jim Crow Supreme Court. All of these cases get before them. So now, right before elections, Louisiana, Alabama, all across the South, all across the North, everywhere, everybody's talking about we got to change our voting districts. You got candidates set in place. And you're always talking about, well, we're going to change that. Yep, we're going to change that. That might null and void your vote. They're always trying to do this. For one thing, the Supreme Court violated a law that's in the Constitution. Yeah, they got to interpret the law, but you know where that interpretation came from? The Supreme Court gave themselves that power way back in the 1700s. That is not in the Constitution. Even though they have the right to rule on the constitutionality of a law, they did not have a right to interpret what that law means. Yet now they've given themselves, they themselves, through that other power, decided to interpret. They have a right to interpret what the law means. That's why we're in the situation we're in here. But Congress can fix that and say, you know what? The Supreme Court does not have they have to follow the letter of the constitutional law. They have nothing else they can go by. Congress can fix that. We can fix that. Congress can also enact, like I said, a policy where a bipartisan committee creates districts in each state. Now, there's another option that I like. It's called proportional voting, where the people of the state, the people, not some committee, not that could be corrupt, not the party in power that could be corrupt, but the people who vote get to decide the number of seats that a party gets. It's called proportional voting. They do it in England. And you can say, oh, there goes another liberal trying to make us liberal like them. No. It works over there. They do it in France. They do it in Germany. They do it all across the place. It gives voice to people. Anybody with less than 12% can't get a seat. Let's say in Alabama, we get 27% of the vote. That's the Democrats, not the black people. But 27 of the seats go to the Democrats. And I'm saying we, like I'm a Democrat. I am not I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm not a Democrat. In other words, I don't follow any party. But let's say the party in power gets 40 and 20. The Republicans get 40 seats, get 20. That means Democrats get 1 to 2 seats. 27%, they get 1 to 2 seats. 37%, 3 to 4. 3 seats become Democratic. But the people have decided by proportional voting. And when I bring this up, everybody's like, that's retarded. Don't do that. No, I say increase the size of the House, either eliminate the Senate or downplay the power that the Senate has, and let's do this, proportional voting. Give a bigger voice to people. Because this is the only way we get representation, because if we try to put a black senator up in Alabama, the white majority takes it because not enough black people go to the polls and vote. We got to do what we got to do here to fix the problem. Congress is the only thing that can save the day, and they have to choose to actually have to do their job, because sometimes these guys don't want to do their job. I'm still upset when Biden said, and I have to bring that up, when Biden said he can compromise with racists. He knows how to work with racists. Yeah. We've seen how that worked. Reconstruction is a good example. When Reconstruction ended and Garfield became president, black people instantly went back into Jim Crow and segregation, were taken out of Congress, were beaten out. The Klan chased them out of their government positions and their nice jobs and homes and all these things. Because when a white man says he knows how to compromise with other racist white men, then you're in trouble as a black man. So we have to watch the GOP. We're going to make sure this time you actually do the job you're supposed to, the Democrats. We're going to vote. And it's most likely the Republicans still going to lose this time around, but they're going to have to change. The Democrats going to have to do some work. And they can't play games like they do. Like I said before, we don't have a national minimum wage law, so Alabama's getting away with keeping people down here, because literally when the black mayor in Birmingham, Alabama, Mayor Randall Woodfin, that's currently the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, wanted to change the voting rules so that people could get $10 an hour minimum wage here, the white majority Republican Senate and House got together in 24 hours and wrote a law. But we can't get a lottery bill here in Alabama for education or other bills, whatever you want to use it for. You can't get that. They've been doing that for 20, 30 years trying to get a lottery bill. You can't even get the lottery here because we're so religious. We're so God-fearing people here. But it was okay for the Alabama Supreme Court to tell women they couldn't get IVF. You know, that kind of stuff. That's the state I live in. So when you tell me the indictment came down from a jury in Central Alabama, from a jury in Central Alabama, it's null and void to me because that was basically members of the capper or the neo nonsense that had something to do with that. That's all it tells me. I don't care if there was a black person on that jury. If they believe this crap that they just put out, then they were just as uneducated as most of these jokers around here in Alabama. I've had my time talking about that. There's some other stuff I want to talk about. Be right back with you.
You sneak across the border, be prepared to be sent home. Attack law enforcement, get ready to stare down both barrels. And stand with radical Islam, and you can Allah Akbar your butt all the way back to the Middle East. I'm Jay Mitchell. As a former college basketball player, I block bad shots for a living. Men and girls sports, rejected. Woke anti-white nonsense, out of here. Trump derangement syndrome, not in my house.
Jay Mitchell, standing tall against the woke left.
I said before, you think that I'm pulling for this idiot right here? Yeah, he's the crown prince of stupidity. I'm definitely not pulling for this particular individual. Jay Mitchell running for the office that currently is occupied by Steve Marshall. By the way, Steve Marshall is campaigning as Attorney General to end the 2 black gerrymandered districts here in the state. Yeah. And now he wants to be the senator of the state of Alabama. Apparently, he's leading the other guy who's a Trump-supported guy. Whatever, I don't care. This Jay Mitchell guy is getting a lot of attention, a lot of news, and a lot of interest because, of course, it's pissing off the liberals, and it's pissing off the other side. His ads are all over TV. There was another ad I wanted to show you, but that was enough of that stupidity. He's not even talking about what an attorney general would actually do to stop crime in the state of Alabama. He'll just blame it on the cities because in his other claim, he claims that cities like Birmingham and Montgomery are little Baghdad or that they are Mexico and all this stuff. And he's going to send all the black and brown people back across the border. Yeah. So racism wins. It was even in this video. It was in here. Racism just wins in Alabama. There are people who will literally go, "He's gonna fix these here liberals," and they don't mean liberals. They don't mean liberals. They will vote for that crap. That's Alabama for you. Yeah, that's the state I live in. Right? We ain't talking about minimum wage or fixing health care in the state where rural health places literally are going out of business every day. Less and less people are working in the healthcare field. We could generate money to put money into healthcare in the state of Alabama. We can increase Medicaid in the state of Alabama, but that's a bad idea, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. No, what we got to do is get the Mexicans out of here, possibly the black people too, and then there will be resources for the white people in Alabama because Jay Mitchell stands up against Baghdad and Mexico in the state of Alabama, which ain't got nothing to do with the state of Alabama and the racism that goes on here. I've said my piece on this guy. I wanted to bring that up because guess what? I'm gonna give him the laugh of the day. Maybe even the boo of the day because he deserves that one too. He deserves that one. Yeah, Jay Mitchell. Bye. By the way, guys, it is May the 4th. If you're a Star Wars fan like I am, I hope you guys are watching on Disney Plus or whatever you're watching. I know we're not supposed to be watching Disney Plus right now because of what they're doing to Jimmy Kimmel, whatever. If you're watching on one of those bootleg, They got that Mall series, man. That Mall series is like he gangster in this thing. It's like you gotta watch it if you are like me and you're a Star Wars fan. I'm not encouraging you to watch on bootleg because you know that can get me in trouble. So I'm not encouraging you, but I know some of y'all do. So I'm just saying, if you're watching on bootleg and not giving that money to Disney, that's perfectly fine. That's your business, not mine. You know, you have to be legal about this stuff. I'm just saying. Hope y'all watching the Mall series. It's good. There's supposed to be a Mandalorian movie coming out soon. Man, I've been watching Star Wars since I was second grade. Back then, the originals came out. The original movies came out. Empire Strikes Back. I think it was the first one I saw in the movie. Then I went back and I saw the original Star Wars. And I saw, oh man, I was 9 years old, standing in line, going to see Return of the Jedi. I still say this. People say that is not one of the best Star Wars films. I'm sorry. For me, it is one of the best films of all times. You know what I'm saying?
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, director.
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's one of the best films of all time, you know, and this is, of course, my favorite line from there.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Anyway, happy May the 4th. May you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I know if you watched to this point, you've got to like, share, and subscribe. Y'all have a wonderful day.
You have been listening to Thought You Were Woke No Speed Limit Podcast.